Headlines across the globe suggest India's economy is an unstoppable juggernaut. On paper, the GDP is surging, but across the country's industrial hubs, the physical economy shows signs of depletion. The Prime Minister recently addressed the nation with an appeal reminiscent of the early pandemic. He asked citizens to halt gold purchases, cancel foreign travel, and reduce cooking oil consumption by 10% to protect the nation's foreign exchange. These warnings arrived just as the government published Q2 GDP growth of 7.8%, a figure exceeding even the Reserve Bank of India's most optimistic forecasts. If the official data indicates record-breaking expansion, the government's reaction suggests the state is actually running out of cash. In Surat, workers like Alpeshbai once embodied the promise of this growth. He left his village to join a diamond factory, eventually earning 35,000 rupees a month, enough to enroll his daughters in an English medium private school. When the export market contracted, his salary was slashed to 18,000 rupees before he was laid off entirely. To survive, he took a job hauling bundles of clothes for 12,000, and his children were moved back into government schools. His story reflects a trend that the top-line GDP figures miss. While growth hit 7.8%, employment in the informal manufacturing sector plummeted. In a single 3-month window, 2.7 million jobs simply vanished. The metric used to claim the world's fastest growth rate is largely disconnected from the informal sector, where the majority of the population actually works. With job losses mounting and inflation-adjusted salary shrinking, domestic consumption appears strangely stable. Malls remain occupied, and premium consumer goods continue to move off the shelves. This stability is not being funded by earnings, but by personal debt. Citizens are maintaining their standard of living through credit cards and installment plans. By March 2025, household debt climbed to 41.3% of India's GDP, up from 36% 4 years earlier. The composition is the primary concern. Over 55% of these loans are for retail survival, personal loans to cover everyday items. After meeting basic survival needs, 90% of the population has no discretionary income left to spend or save. The domestic market is being hollowed out by a population forced to mortgage their future to pay for today's essentials. This debt-heavy consumer base had zero capacity to absorb the impact when 3 external shocks hit the economy in rapid succession. First, the U.S. imposed 50% tariffs on Indian goods, stalling export engines and placing hundreds of thousands of jobs in Tirupur at risk. Next, geopolitical shifts forced India to stop importing discounted Russian oil. The government was compelled to purchase American energy at a premium in U.S. dollars. Finally, conflict in the Middle East blocked the Strait of Hormuz. With half of India's oil supply on this route, crude prices spiked 58% overnight. These 3 events converged to break the internal logic of India's economic model, exposing its reliance on cheap energy and external debt. As dollar demand for oil surged and export revenues dropped, the currency buckled. The rupee fell to an all-time low of 96 rupees 90 pence. While official figures claimed low inflation, the cost of imported fuel and fertilizer caused gas cylinders on the black market to reach 2,500 rupees. For the working poor, the effective inflation rate hit 60%. Fearing a total collapse, foreign investors pulled their wealth out of the country. In just 6 months, 2.7 trillion rupees in capital exited the Indian market. This exodus reduced the usable foreign exchange reserves to a level that can barely sustain 6 months of the country's basic import requirements. With the currency devalued and foreign capital fleeing, the nation's macroeconomic defenses have been neutralized. During a period of widespread job loss, the state is expected to act as a buffer, using the treasury to stimulate growth and provide a safety net for its citizens. The treasury is functionally empty. The national debt to GDP ratio has reached 82%, far beyond the 40% ceiling for developing nations. Over 80